All right.
Hey guys, Suli logged in early. Would you like me to drop?
Oh, nope. Hi, Suli. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Great, great. Okay, everybody, I want to make sure that we start and end on time today. I know everyone has a very busy calendar. So I hope everyone is doing well this evening. I will be leading this meeting today, and the issue, of course, is talking about the ABRA application for the cannabis dispensary at the Pill Plus location. The purpose of today's meeting, we are only talking about one topic today. This is the topic. This is a special meeting. Normally, the commissioners have, we do a August recess, but because this came at the end of last month, we decided to do a special session so we could discuss this issue. I want to talk a little bit about process before we get going. First, the commissioners have not decided yet on which way they're going to vote. The whole point of this community meeting and soliciting community feedback via the survey is to, understand Sue Lee's position, also understand what Venice Main Street wants, and again, solicit feedback from the wider community here. At the end of the meeting, our goal is to vote because we have to submit this by the 22nd, Monday. And so I know ANC 8C has already voted on this issue. And so, sorry, ANC3C, excuse me, ANC3C has already voted on this issue. And so, that's how we have, that's how we are moving towards making sure that we submit our vote on time. So that is why it's there. The survey is located, I know this question about the survey. The survey is located on the ANC3F website as well. We did our best to put this up on our Instagram account as well as the various listservs. But if you, and I would encourage everybody this evening to, solicit, if you have questions, feedback or comments, to utilize the chat function, and the commissioners are going to be throughout this meeting reading those comments and questions and moving to make sure that we facilitate this conversation in the best way possible. As well, we will have Sue Lee and Maya, who are going to be presenting this evening to educate the community about their business, and that's sort of how we're going to move forward. Any other commissioners have any comments or feedback?
You gave a great introduction though, but we do still have to do the formal roll call and adopting the agenda before we can actually start business. Just don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have to go through the formalities of the meeting as well.
Sure. So yes, I will do roll call, I guess. Normally it's Miss Commissioner David does the roll call, but Commissioner David. Present. Okay. Commissioner Nemeth.
Sorry.
Yeah. Commissioner Nemeth.
Yep, here.
Present. Okay. Commissioner Castile.
Here.
Commissioner Wall.
Present.
Two of our commissioners today are not here. They are on vacation, so we have quorum today, so they will not be voting today. Commissioner David.
Yeah, just
Castile, excuse me.
That's okay. A little bit on process. I just want to make sure everybody knows that, part of this process, there's, I think, 5 or 6 locations in Ward 3 that are being considered, and this is just one of those 6. And as Commissioner Appa suggested, that ANC3C had 2 of them in their ANC, and I think they voted to support one and not another. But I think the important, what I want to say is that this is there's essentially this is if I read the notice that ABRA sent out, essentially this is a competition between wards 3 and I think it's wards 5.
5, correct.
And they're going to select one site, and part of that selection process is really the degree of community support or not. And so it's not, regardless of what happens. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize what happens tonight, but this is just one part of the process in terms of the way ABRA looks at these 6 potential locations. So I just want people to you know, if I can understand concerns on a range of fronts, but this is just but one step in the process. And certainly, and I think that, at least again, what we saw in the process is that the ANC gets, you know, they'll award ANC participation of up to 30 points. But I honestly don't know, and maybe that's part of tonight's conversation in terms of what that, you know, 30 points in the context of what is it, 300 points, or is it 35 points? But I just want to point out that again, this is, you know, we are not the only, this is not the only location that's been being considered for this particular facility. Thanks.
Yes.
Commissioner
ahead.
Appa, one question clarification. Commissioner Castile mentioned that they're looking at Ward 3 and Ward 5. I thought they were considering one site in each ward. So it's not a competition between the wards, that there will be a site in Ward 3 and a site in Ward 5, but they're competing among the sites that are offered in Ward 3 and then separately competing among the sites that are in Ward 5.
You know, the first time I read it, I thought that's what it was. But then when I dove deeper and read the language, it really sounds like they're selecting one site, and that site can either be for a dispensary specifically. They have different types of things that, because they have cultivation centers, they have different types of facilities that they're considering in this whole process. But for dispensary specifically, as I reread the paperwork, it sounds like there's just going to be one dispensary that's going to be awarded, and that's going to be either in Ward 3 or Ward 5, not one in each.
But regardless of what's, you know, in the mix, we're just looking at this one particular site in 3F. That's all we're considering.
Yes,
tonight.
our focus tonight, and we have to also adopt the agenda, and then we can really get into it. Our focus here is only the site on Connecticut Avenue in 3F.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's correct. And so with that, I want to make sure that we do follow the process and adopt the agenda. So all in favor of the current, hopefully you guys can see, sorry. And I have can you guys all see the current agenda that's up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. All in favor of adopting tonight's agenda for the consideration of the proposed cannabis dispensary on 4215 Connecticut Avenue.
So what we need a motion. So I move that we adopt the agenda for tonight's special meeting.
Great. All in
Second.
favor?
We
Great.
need a second. Okay. Now the vote.
Great. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Now that I've got a crash course in Robert's Rules of Order, I want to make sure that I welcome our presenters this evening. Suli and Maya are from the proposed cannabis dispensary, and they will be presenting their presentation. We will start with them, and then we will turn it over to community feedback. So with that, I will stop sharing the agenda, or stop sharing my screen, and allow Suli. I think, Suli, are you going to be sharing?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to be sharing a presentation, which Maya and I will do a short one, and then open it up for questions and comments. So thank you all for having this special meeting in the middle of your summer vacation. So we appreciate it. I know the process has the timing that it has. So I also know that we might get some questions about Pills Plus and you know, this concern about us pushing out Pills Plus. And I just want to tell you guys that is not at all our intention. We're actually just learning about this ourselves recently. And so I'm having some discussions with the owners of Pills Plus. We don't know exactly how those are going to play out, but we think that we wanted to have this meeting. We think it's a great opportunity to educate the community on ourselves and on cannabis. We think it would be great for Van Ness. And so we'd like you guys to still vote on the site with the assumption that we're going to figure it out soon. But I know we'll get some questions on that. So I just want everyone to know we're not trying to shut down any businesses. We really want to be where you guys want us to be. So we're just trying to follow the ABRA process best we can. So nice to meet you all.
Great. And do you, have presentation privileges? I just want to make sure that you are able to share your screen.
I don't think, oh, maybe I do. Yes. Let's see if you guys can see it.
Perfect. Great.
Yep. Okay. Now I'm technically challenged, so I'm hoping that this all plays out okay, but hopefully no hiccups. I think we'll be in good shape. So how would you like to proceed? Do you want to start at 7:30 exactly, or?
No. Go ahead and get started.
Oh, okay. And Maya is on the line with me?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
perfect.
here, Suli.
Okay, thank you. All right, well then we'll get started. Thank you all for having us. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. My name is Suli Clay, and I'm the president of Uxolo LLC. We are pleased to introduce our company and to discuss our plan to responsibly bring safe access to medical cannabis in Ward 3, and in particular to the Van Ness community. We are excited for this opportunity to interact with the community and to answer questions regarding ourselves and medical cannabis generally. In the Zulu language, Uxolo means peace, quiet, or calm. That is what we hope our business will bring to the Van Ness community. I'm hoping you guys can see the whole thing there. Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. I can't quite tell. I'm on a small screen. So this is we are a diverse and highly capable and qualified team of professionals with experience in a variety of regulated industries. To keep this presentation brief tonight, Maya and I will be the only members of our team presenting. This slide includes bios for some of our other team members, many of whom have deep experience in retail operations, including medicinal cannabis. To briefly introduce myself, I'm a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Law School. In my day job, I'm a business lawyer with over 20 years experience in corporate law. I am currently a partner in a small woman and minority-owned law firm where I've developed a specialty in transaction structuring and regulatory compliance for cannabis companies. My grandmother founded a funeral home during the Depression that my father operated for over 60 years. I grew up around the dinner table where business, family, and community went hand in hand. I am part of this community and have been for over 20 years. My kids went to Murch, Deal, and Wilson, and Walls. We have the utmost respect for this community and will do everything in our power to enhance it. I first became interested in cannabis as a service provider to the industry, but was amazed at the great relief it provides to people in pain. I believe in the power of the plant, so much so that my family and I own and operate a farm where we grow produce and hemp and make hemp-based wellness products. We are proud of our contributions in business and hope to educate others about this amazing plant. With that said, I'd like to introduce my partner, friend, and neighbor, Maya Gray, who will say a few words about herself and Uxolo.
Good evening, commissioners and residents of ANC3F. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to meet with you this evening. My name is Maya Gray, and as Suli shared, we are neighbors, and I am vice president of Uxolo. I am a second generation Washingtonian and also a second generation business owner. My late father, Bernard Gray, owned and operated the Maya Gallery, named after me clearly, in various locations in Center City for about 30 years. Before gentrification forced him out. I grew up in Ward 6 in the Southwest waterfront area, right down the street from what is now the spectacular DC Wharf. And for the past 2 decades, I've been a homeowner in Ward 1 in Pleasant Plains. In my day job, I am an executive and leader focused on leveraging digital technologies to positively impact patient and provider experiences in healthcare. I sit on 3 different nonprofit boards and mentor potential first generation college students. I'm still a contributing member of my church that I grew up in. So I believe in community, and that's why we're here. I'm personally passionate about medical marijuana because I've suffered from osteoarthritis for over a decade now. And in order to avoid overuse of NSAID pain relievers, I've depended on topical and consumable CBD products to address my pain for years. We created Uxolo to service patients like me and likely some patients like some of you on the call. And we're here to share more about our organization. Next slide, please. Thanks, Suli. So again, we're super excited for this opportunity to introduce ourselves and discuss our plans to responsibly bring safe access to medical cannabis to Ward 3, and in particular to the Van Ness neighborhood. At Exolo, our mission is to help patients use cannabis to ease their pain and suffering. That's it, for patients. Our purpose is to create a safe space for patients to learn about cannabis and explore healthier, non-smoking options such as edibles, topicals, tinctures, and oils, which we can certainly tell you more about. And we'll do this by providing education about and access to a curated selection of products and alternative forms of cannabis. We will also provide education with a particular focus on patients who are seniors and those who are managing chronic pain. We also thought it'd be a good idea for you to understand our core values as a business, and that we're not your typical dispensary. We value wellness, community, service, and education. And our dispensary will provide wellness solutions and education in service of patients, again, with chronic pain and suffering, and the elderly. Our priority is to first ensure the safety of our patients, our employees, and our surrounding community. We want to be a good neighbor and help increase retail activity within the community, which we know is a focus. And we also will provide exemplary service with compassion and professionalism to our patients. We aim to create individualized wellness programs for patients to track adherence and efficacy of our cannabis treatments. And finally, in order to effectively educate our patients, of course, we must first also educate our staff so that they can provide that personalized and compassionate service. Next slide, please. Earlier, I shared with you why I'm personally passionate about medical marijuana. We know that the medical cannabis patient may not look like who you think that patient is, right? They look a lot like you or I. Most are over 35 years old, half are women, almost 60% make over $40,000 a year, and over 70% will be Caucasian. And they will suffer from a variety of qualifying conditions, from chronic illnesses, cancer, and pain. So those are the patients we're servicing, which may not be kind of the patients that you expect. And I'm going to pass it back to Suli.
Thank you, Maya. I appreciate that. So obviously, coming to the community, it's of paramount importance that we are a good neighbor. So in part of being a good neighbor, we want to provide initially quality medicinal products of all types and methods of ingestion. We know that smoking has been an issue that folks are concerned about, and in a patient environment, we really do try to push alternative methods of delivery for the product. So such things as edibles or medibles. We also hope to educate our patients and communities about cannabis. There is a lot to learn. There's over 100 cannabinoids of all different types, not just THC. And so we hope to be able to provide a comprehensive set of medicines that serve many purposes. We also hope to hire locally. We will be creating jobs. We also hope to support the local business community, the local farmers market. And most of all, we want to entice new people into the neighborhood. We do believe that our business will attract hundreds of Ward 3 residents with disposable income to this block, which would not otherwise come to this part of the neighborhood. And we do understand the difficulties that the neighborhood has encountered, particularly with retail development. And so we will proactively find avenues to support the local business community. Another big question that communities often have is, does legal cannabis lead to more crime? A recent study by the Cato Institute concluded that the absence of significant adverse consequences is especially striking given the sometimes dire predictions made by legalization opponents. And we've heard it all, but the facts are that when legal medicinal cannabis comes to a neighborhood, more often than not, it does not impact crime. And there's a site there you guys can check. But consistent with the regulations, we are required to provide fulsome security. So our store will be compliant with DC municipal regulations. We will have our security plan submitted to ABRA for review and approval. We will have a licensed and bonded security company on duty during all operating hours. We will have state-of-the-art, as you might imagine, video surveillance. We will have a vault. There will be no cash or product out. And we have researched many methods or several methods that would allow us to use credit cards and not have to have excessive amount of cash on premises. Only qualified patients with a valid ID are allowed into the dispensary. That would also mean no children unless they are medical cannabis patients with their parents, and no curbside pickup or customer parking. So we're really hoping to really enhance the neighborhood, to not attract nuisances. There will be no smoking permitted anywhere in or around our store. We are a legal business. We do understand that DC has a interesting market with a lot of gray market businessmen out here, for lack of a better word, selling cannabis, and has created some nuisances in the community. And we definitely want to distinguish what we are doing from that. If you have seen a medical dispensary in another state, you probably know they are clean, they are neat, their clientele is diverse. And in general, I think they assist in the businesses surrounding them. So we want to thank you very much for this opportunity to present to you tonight. We are welcome to answer any questions you may have about what we're proposing here. And, we'd love to answer any questions about us or about cannabis. So however you guys would like to proceed with questions, we welcome them.
Yeah, I would love to start with the commissioner's questions, and then if folks have questions, please would love folks to start utilizing the chat, and then we can definitely open it up to the community as well. So I'll start with the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Questions, comments, thoughts, or feedback?
Commissioner App, I have one question.
Yes, Commissioner Wall.
First, a thank you to the owners, Uxolo, for coming here to present. Appreciate the thoughtful presentation and sharing this information with us. In your slides, you mentioned the fact that it's somewhat of a false kind of statement to say that these types of businesses have adverse effects on surrounding areas. Can you speak kind of on the opposite side of that? Have you ever seen, or do you know of cases where these facilities have had catalytic effects, where a facility opens and as a result, there's additional new retail activity that occurs nearby such facilities? Have you seen that in your work elsewhere in the city or elsewhere?
So I don't have any particular evidence of it, but anecdotally, yes. I mean, if for no other reason than because cannabis consumers get the munchies, we feel that, people will go shop in surrounding community. When someone comes to the block, they are not there necessarily just to buy cannabis, particularly this type of neighborhood. We are hoping that people will find a reason to walk to us, to take the metro to us. Obviously, sustainability is an important thing. So we would encourage our customers to take public transportation, and we would hope that that would open up the entire few block retail area to more traffic.
And I'll just add to that. We have seen some studies, and we can certainly provide some information where in areas where cannabis has been prevalent and legal for quite some time, that there has been growth in those communities because obviously economic growth, it drives economic growth. There are more jobs. There are more of the community coming into these dispensaries, and also tax dollars are redirected back into the dispensaries. In fact, I think there was a study in Sacramento, California, where they said that the presence of dispensaries actually drive up home values. So I can certainly share that article with you as well.
And
I have,
please go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I have one follow-up question on a different topic is that you mentioned also your goal of surveying medicinal uses and therapeutic uses for people who come to your facility. However, recently the city has made it easier for people to, self-certify that they need, cannabis. In light of that, essentially that kind of removes, the fact that it could be 100%, medical users in terms of, people could be dishonest in saying that they have some condition that requires cannabis. With that in mind, how would you, control the potential for, recreational users who might not just be there for medicinal use, and making sure that those recreational users don't cause, a negative impact to the community?
Absolutely. And thank you for that question. Actually, when we started the process, that wasn't the case. So we're dealing with that as a new development as well. And my understanding is that today you walk into the dispensary, you can self-certify, you still have to certify. So you are attesting that these things are true to the government. And then you're going to be a registered patient in the government. So this is not adult use. There will be many people that will not desire to register with the government. So those will not be our customers. And we will just have to follow the DC processes and procedures best we can. I think, there is a list of qualifying conditions, and, if someone wants to lie about whether they're sick, I'm not sure why they would do that when there are other options available in the city. But if they did, I think we'll try to police it as best we can and consistent with district law.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I see there's some questions in the chat. Would you like me to try to address those?
No, we're gonna finish with the commissioners and then we'll move on
Okay.
to the chat. Commissioner Castile.
Yeah, I just have, I think you kind of touched on a little bit, but help us understand your thought process for this particular location. You had all of Ward 3. I'm just wondering what.
Why Vanessa?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we think it's a great community to be located in. I am aware of sort of the special issues that this community has had compared to the other retail districts around. And as you might imagine, there's really not that many places you can go with a legal dispensary. You have to be so far away from schools and rec centers. And there's just a lot of parameters that make it difficult, not the least of which is finding a landlord that's amenable to it. They can't have a bank, for example, as a lender on their building. So really, there aren't a lot of places to go. So part of it is, where was there a place that was available that was suitable for our needs, which involves, having to have a vault and certain types of security and the like. I love Van Ness. I think it's a great neighborhood for this particular type of business. You have a lot of density there. There's a lot of larger buildings. You have people of different income streams and age. And so I think that's good for a business like ours, where the clientele is quite diverse. A lot of people can walk to us from where they are in Van Ness. So I think it suits our purposes. And also we were hoping to have, community support from the perspective of, we know you guys want people coming to Van Ness.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner David.
Hi, can you speak more to the security aspect of it? Only because in this area we have had issues with just like shoplifting, and there's been issues with security issues with businesses in the community. So I know you have your own security guard, but people are pretty creative. If they want something, they will figure out how to get it. So how are you prepared for that?
Well, the security guard is a big part of that. We also have internal and external camera systems. There really are multiple levels of security. It's restricted access area, really restricted access only for most of all of the facility. But then in the places where we have product, there's a higher level of restricted access. If someone came there, they'd have to be trying to rob us, which would be just like any other business. So we can't protect against all of that, but we are going to take whatever steps that we can to certainly protect the people that work for us and to protect our patients. So we want to be prepared, but honestly, every community experiences some level of crime, and you can't protect for everything. But we feel that the Van Ness community is actually a fairly safe one. relative to other communities in the district. So I know there's been you had a mass shooting, you had a kidnapping. There's been a lot of things that I'm certain have put the community on edge. And part of our purpose here is to assure you that we're very sensitive to those concerns, and we certainly don't want to be part of any problems. So not for ourselves and not for our community.
Just one follow-up question, do you put products away at night?
Absolutely. By law, everything has to be locked up tight in a vault. And it's a vault that's, I won't say impenetrable, but is designed to be not penetrated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nemeth.
But even with that, I mean, you just are not going to have products on the shelf where people self-serve. I mean,
correct. It's very restricted access. People will sit down.
Because it's okay, people are going to be self-certifying, but this is still by prescription. So they're still going to have to be served by someone. People are not just going to be going to a shelf and picking
Exactly.
items off a shelf, and they can't just come in and sweep off of a shelf and run out the door.
Exactly. No, this is not Amazon Fresh. You're going to be meeting an associate that will help you choose your product, hopefully provide some education on the product. We find a lot of people do need education. There is a lot to know that people don't know now. So you do have a very personal experience, and product is always kept away from the customers. So once they know what they want, they get it, they leave. They don't stick around to smoke it, take it home. That's where it's legal to smoke.
And what percentage do you foresee being smoked versus edibles versus other? I mean, I'm not even sure all the various formulations or ways that it could be ingested, but I mean, I know most people think of cannabis consumption as smoking it, but I know that that's really only just a small.
That's correct. So
how do you see that breakdown, or what is that breakdown? Like, do most people, at least when it comes to medical cannabis, is that done through edibles or through other means besides smoking?
Definitely. I mean, if you're a cancer patient, the last thing you want to do is be smoking. And really the last thing you want to do is be eating sugar. So really part of our mission is to find products and to bring products to market that are going to serve the market well. Admittedly, right now, flower, I think in most states is the #1 seller. It's also the most affordable. So it is a more equitable access to the market through flower. But there are every day or every year more delivery methods and products that are developed by scientists that are, focusing on this issue. What are better ways to ingest? So there are concentrates and waxes, and as you've probably seen, vapes, obviously edibles. A lot of women prefer not to smoke, and given that we are a woman-owned business, we want to give women these alternative methods. And that also means, our products aren't going to just be getting you high. I mean, that's what people think of when they think cannabis, but with over 100 cannabinoids other than THC, we're hoping to curate products that really address issues beyond I want to be out of my mind. I want to feel less pain, but I have kids to watch today. So maybe I take a CBD product or a CBG product because that's giving me the anti-inflammatory effect that I'm looking for. I mean, we would love for the industry to be evolved enough where we could just, give you a pill of cannabis and say, here it is, it's going to fix X, but we can't do that yet. The FDA doesn't allow it. And so, people are finding a way, and we're here to help you find the way. And it may very well, for a lot of people, not involve smoking.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions from the commissioners?
I see the community has a lot of questions. So.
They do. But before we get to community, sorry, I realize Gloria from Venice Main Street is here. So I would love to hear perspectives from Venice Main Street, perspectives from Venice Main Street, and if you are in support of this business.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Appa. And thank you, Sholo, for coming tonight. I want to let the community know that we, as an organization, our executive committee, our economic development committee, and just this morning, our board discussed the issue. And particular to the site, we will discuss this lease situation, but if there is a current small business with a valid lease in this site, so our board feels there's really nothing to discuss, but we did discuss the issue of a dispensary in that site if there wasn't a lease, if it was a available space. And much discussion was given, a lot of really good discussion. And the board at this point did not pass a resolution, but the discussion said that we are pro small business. This is a small business, minority owned company. It's all across the city. Other main streets have it at first floor retail. And that the board would be open in supporting it in our corridor. Right now, we don't believe there is a site, but if the site was available, the Van Ness Main Street Board would support it. It would increase foot traffic. It would bring much needed service to the neighborhood. It is a wave of the future. And if we're, going to be competitive, the board felt that we should support this type of business in the corridor. So that's where we are right now.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we certainly thank you for that, and I can address, we recently also learned that Pills Plus may desire to stay in the location. So we were a little bit surprised by that. Frankly, we have no interest in pushing anyone out. We are in discussions, and even though those aren't settled as of tonight, we'd still like the community to weigh in on this proposal, and we'll see where this ends up.
I do have a question actually for Gloria. Gloria, if you can speak to, I don't know if you had a chance to speak to other main streets across DC and the impact those businesses had on those communities. And if you heard anything about other communities in terms of crime, in terms of all the issues that have been brought up on this call, if you could speak to that, because that is local to our district, right?
Sure. Honestly, Barracks Row has had one of the longest standing ones, and nothing has, it hasn't impacted it negatively. Everything has been what we're all experiencing, anyway, the past 2 years, and the uptick in I call it crimes of opportunity and gun violence that we all know, and mental illness that's occurring in our corridors, but it's happening across the city. I will tell you that several of the competing main streets are vying to get it in Ward 3. So it is a coveted business, one that we hadn't really discussed as main streets all together, but now that it's coming before some of us, pretty much my other competitors in Ward 3 were welcoming it, especially Glover Park was looking forward to having one. I can't speak to MacArthur, to the others, because everybody's on vacation, unfortunately. But no, and I do have research that I personally did, and I know Colorado is a state that was early adopter. I personally have visited these in Colorado. They're incredibly, secure, safe, well-run. I imagine this one would be the same. But no, Barracks Row has not experienced, and their foot traffic has increased, so that's even during the pandemic, right? Because they were open during the pandemic. So, so that's all I know, Alexandra.
I appreciate that, Gloria. Yeah, I appreciate that. I've also visited several in California as well as in Colorado. And as Suli said, it's not like you can just grab any merchandise off of the shelves. It is like a pharmacy where you have to go in and speak to somebody, and it's very secure in my experience. Okay, any other questions from the commissioners? And I also want to know, I don't see Juanita Gray on the call. I know we had invited her to the meeting this evening to get the
Oh,
EDC perspective.
Commissioner,
Yes.
actually, President Mason was at our meeting this morning.
Oh, great.
and he-
Okay.
Yeah, and he said that they would not have it on their campus, obviously, at any of their retail locations due to their charter and, all
It's
of
a
their,
university.
yeah, well, and it's also that they're funded by the DC government. So,
Right.
but he said they would support whatever, the community, he personally wasn't against it. And he said he would support whatever Van Ness Main Street's position was and what the ANC came up with. So, I think very open, as long as it's not on their campus.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. That's a feedback I know that some folks in the chat were wondering about. Okay, so I would love to open this up to community questions. I'm going to go to the questions in the chat first. And I'll just go in order. This question is from John. He goes to a dispensary in another ward. Will you have the same products as Therm or new products as them? I think it's with them.
So we hope to be bringing our own products to market. We actually also applied for a cultivation processing license and are a finalist. So with any luck, we'll be making our own products to put in our own store. In addition to offering the products that are offered by the other producers in town. So I hope that we have the best product mix in town. So I would say, I hope we don't have any of the same and that ours are way better. So our goal is to have a product mix that's tailored to our community, our patients.
Can I ask one question about the cultivation license? What's the process for the cultivation license? And are you applying for the cultivation license in Ward 3?
No, it is not in Ward 3. It's all part of the same process that we're in now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. One of the questions from Jennifer was about parking. Can you talk about parking in greater detail? Because more traffic means foot traffic even, but also means parking. So
yeah, we hope to discourage driving to us. I mean, this is DC. I mean, my kids don't even have driver's license. I mean, take the metro, take the bus, it's right there. Please come a way that doesn't, we don't have parking. So, other than the parking garage. So we don't want to overflow. Obviously some folks will drive and, we can't stop them from doing that, but we definitely will encourage sustainability.
great. Leslie says, what made the Van Ness neighborhood attractive to you? I think you already touched on this, but if you want to expand on that anymore, that would be great.
Yeah, really, it was the density and the fact that we thought it would be a welcoming place for us, given the special needs of the community. So that was, and it was available, or so we thought.
Is there anything about the demographics of the community that is also attractive to your business? I wasn't sure compared to other parts of, versus Cleveland Park, Tenleytown, et cetera.
I think, well, and this is a little bit more impression. I feel it's more diverse, but I think the demographics are pretty consistent with the typical cannabis consumer. So, I mean, as a minority-owned business, we welcome and pride diversity, and we also want a patient that is going to be typical. So this is a good area for that.
We did see we did solicit feedback from the community via survey, and I did see some comments from older patients who said that they use this for pain management and so forth. So I wasn't sure if there was like an age demographic, as you had in your presentation, that also made this an attractive community.
And frankly, seniors being proximate to us is an attraction. I mean, that's the fastest growing cannabis user are older people, and they're using it for pain management. So in addition to ingesting, they're using it as topically and finding a lot of luck with that. And so we definitely want to emphasize topicals to the extent our community is interested in buying them.
Yeah. I know Gloria asked this question, will the security be armed? Can you some folks also joined a little bit late, so will security be armed?
We intend to have an armed security guard, yes.
Again, I think just to re-emphasize that, I think, again, some people joined late. So the question is around can you confirm that, Pill Plus is not going to be pushing any other businesses out?
Definitely not. I understand, they think circumstances have changed for the better for them and we're going to be talking to them, but no, we are not going to push anyone out.
What are your planned hours?
So the district allows us to be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. Our operations lead has strongly discouraged us from being open 7 days a week. So I think we'll be open 6 days a week at some smaller subset of hours, but we don't know yet. Really, it'll be depending on how the traffic flow works is how we'll make our decision.
Great. I know Terry had a comment about one of the problems in the apartment complexes is that people are smoking marijuana in the buildings, so you can smell them in hallways. Even though you don't sell the marijuana that can be smoked, it doesn't prevent someone from being able to do just that. It's already a problem in some of the buildings. I don't know if there's any commentary you have about that.
There's over, I think 100 or more so-called illegal dispensaries in the district. More than likely you're smelling what they're selling. With that said, we will be selling flour, so we can't promise that your neighbor won't come shop with us. But we don't think that we're going to be adding or contributing to that problem since cannabis is readily available, even in Ward 3.
Any commissioner comments about marijuana smoking in the building? I'm just curious. Okay. This is also from Terry. I think this is a response to Gloria. Barrack Row has few apartment buildings on the immediate street and are primarily businesses. So if there is a dispensary there, it would do well amongst other businesses. So go ahead, Gloria.
But you have to remember that Barracks Row is now connected to Navy Yard, which is now one of the highest density and highest fastest growing residential. So I mean, I worked in Navy Yard and walked over to Barracks Row, to 8th Street to eat lunch. And that is the heart of Capitol Hill. While they're not high rises, it is, row after row of houses. So the businesses do well, but I mean, they did choose it because of the high density as well. And the growing density down in, Navy Yard and the harbor.
From Neighbor, will you offer healthcare benefits to employees, either full-time or part-time?
Yes. Yes, I thought you were asking if you could buy cannabis on your health plan.
No,
I don't know. Not yet.
not yet.
No, absolutely. We would be offering benefits.
Great. Those are the questions I see in the chat. Are there any other questions that folks want to, another question from Andrew, the apartment building concern. I sent a comment yesterday concerning the building ventilation, smokable cannabis, user discretion, education is to not bother neighbors. Andrew, can you speak a little bit more to that? If you want to come off mute.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you. What I meant by discretion education, I'm not sure if Sulu can chime in on this at all, but I mean, there are ways to consume cannabis that are not going to bother your neighbors. And considering the fact that so many people in the area are going to be living in apartment buildings, is there any way that Sulu could provide some sort of discretion education to people?
Absolutely. I mean, we will be providing education on many topics, including responsible usage, which means, if you're going to be using it at home, what does that mean? So yeah, we absolutely want to educate our consumer because it doesn't make any good business for us to disrupt the neighborhood with our product.
All right, that's just a big concern people have, so thank you.
And when folks come in, they'll be asked to, basically when they first register and with us to sign off on our code of conduct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Can you tell us what your code of conduct is?
Well, some detail, well, we haven't written it yet, but it would be basically details around responsible usage, such as where and when you can smoke under DC law, how much you can have, no smoking on the premises, matters of that nature, really of the nature of eliminating or reducing nuisance.
I see a question from Leslie in the chat. The survey is due by the 22nd. Will this meeting be available online before then? How can we find it? Leslie, do you mean, will this meeting be recorded and on and available to the public?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes,
that
I
is
can.
Buzz, yeah.
Yes, all of our meetings are recorded. It is being recorded right now, and is available pretty much immediately after the meeting, and we upload it to YouTube as well as on our website, so everyone can review this meeting.
Okay, so which website? Could you put the website in the chat?
Sure, yeah, ANC3F.com, but I will drop it in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I want to open it up for additional community questions. I don't see any hands raised at the moment. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or feedback?
Is there a community comment deadline? Is one that I just saw.
Well, we are voting on our position this evening.
Yeah,
So-
at the end of the meeting, exactly, Commissioner Mueth, the deadline is now. So any comments, thoughts, or feedback that you have, we would love to hear from the community. Again, we did send out the survey and circulate it. It was in the Forestville Connection, on the Cleveland Park listserv, on the Venice South listserv, on our Instagram site. So we did the best we could to spread the word. Additional questions. Will you be offering delivery to customers?
We don't have that in our business plan currently, but we'd like to, especially in light of the concerns around parking.
Great. Another question from Jay. Are you independent or working with multi-state big cannabis corporations?
We are independent. We are not an MSO.
Great.
And Maya and I are both, as you know, the long-term district residents. So that's why we're doing this here now.
Great. Other questions from the community? Stan, I think you have your hand raised, sorry.
Yeah, I have one quick question to just, given the fact that it's still not possible to bank in a normal way, so will you be accepting cash for these purchases, and how will you manage that and avoid, becoming a target because of all the cash you'll have to keep?
Exactly. We'll have a cash management policy. There are technology solutions to reduce the amount of cash in dispensaries. Whether it be through an ATM type card where you can load credits. And we anticipate using something like that to reduce cash. I mean, we would love the feds to allow us to bank normally. And there are cannabis banks available now. People don't realize that, but there are. And so, we'll be banking with a cannabis bank, and wherever possible, trying to reduce the use of cash in the operation.
So to be clear, just along that thread, so your people are not gonna be able to just come in with a normal credit card or like the normal ATM card or debit card, like you would do at Giant or CVS to be able to pay for goods. It's gonna have to be a cash payment or an alternate payment because of this banking restriction.
Or an online, yeah, potentially, but I think we haven't chosen our technology provider yet, so I don't know exactly what form it will take, but there are several out there that provide this solution.
Okay.
Mhm.
Leslie has a question on where the recordings are. Sorry, Monica, were you going to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go
I'll
ahead.
get that link in the chat. Yeah, it's there's a section that says watch our video recordings, and I'll put it in the chat. It takes a little while for it to get up there because It has to get downloaded, processed and such because it's ultimately hosted on YouTube and we have a link there. So it usually takes a couple of hours just for the whole thing to get encoded and whatever else technology does to make it available. So it's not going to be there immediately, but it'll be there
By
this evening.
tomorrow, yeah, this evening.
It'll be
Tomorrow
there
at the
tomorrow.
latest. Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Nemeth, for that clarification.
And I was just texted a clarification. The applications do allow for use of regular debit cards.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. Other questions or comments from the community?
We do have a CBE designation. We're a certified business enterprise in
Great.
wholesale deliveries. So people think we'll be getting a lot of deliveries. They're actually fairly infrequent. So there probably will not be a daily delivery. I don't think we have a precise plan. There has to be a detailed security. The reason I'm hesitating is because there has to be a detailed security SOP associated with receiving deliveries and the like, as you might imagine. And we don't have all the details on that at this time, but there will be a complete procedure for receiving deliveries that maximizes safety protocols.
Great. I know there are folks who are thinking, so I just want to continue to give time for folks to process and answer and think about their questions if there are any.
Looks like we've got one also about the CBE. Did we just?
We did,
address
yes,
that one? Okay.
we are a CBE, certified business enterprise in the district.
Can you speak a little bit to, we do have, children who are in the neighborhood. There were definitely concerns about, high schoolers that are in the local area. I know that you have to be over the age, I believe, 21 to be able to enter, but can you speak a little bit more to responsible use and making sure that, kids aren't getting their hands on cannabis?
Exactly. Well, like you said, you got to show ID, age restricted ID to come in. It's not going to be a cannabis leaf on the doorway. This is going to be I'll call it sophisticated, for lack of a better word, retail storefront. So you're not going to see, it's not going to be a CBD shop, if you will. So I just graduated my Wilson high schooler this year. So I know the issues, and, not that I can completely shelter them from cannabis, but you don't need to be seeing it as you hop off the train in a giant leaf. So I'm sensitive to that. And I think we'll have as discreet an exterior as we can.
Great. A question from Jennifer: if this location becomes unavailable due to Pill Plus, do you have other Ward 3 potential locations identified?
So it's funny, we've gotten a lot of great suggestions now out of this process of potential locations. As I mentioned, it is somewhat difficult to find a location on account of it being cannabis, as you might imagine, finding landlords that are okay with it. We want to be in the community. So, if people are aware of places they think that are available and would be open to a use like this, we'd love to hear about it.
There is a question around the fact that the FDA has not approved cannabis for medical marijuana, to my understanding. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because those are some concerns of folks are like, well, the federal government has not approved this, so why should we be sort of ahead of that?
Yeah, they haven't approved CBD either yet, CBD drinks and food, are on every store shelf. So the FDA is actually late with it. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's federally illegal. The FDA is actually late with its hemp regulations. So the CBD manufacturers are still trying to figure out if they can put it in drinks. So Trump had it, now Biden has it, and it's just been taking a long time. That will really be the first step once the FDA puts out its guidelines on hemp. Hemp is cannabis, just with low THC, so it has kind of the same profile and everything. So I don't believe that the FDA will approve cannabis for human consumption unless and until the federal government legalizes it. You will see movement on these other cannabinoids at some point soon, hopefully, but until then, we are allowed to sell it because the district allows us to sell it. The feds say no, so we have to unfortunately walk this tightrope until they work that conflict out.
Commissioner Nemeth.
Okay, so since Jennifer's basically brought this topic up, let's talk about the location itself, specifically the Pills Plus location, because that certainly has been a topic that we commissioners, we had a bunch of emails on this week internally, and received this back and forth about what was going on there, and heard that originally Pills Plus did not have a lease, then there was a lease, and now it seems that it's settled that there is a lease with Douglas Development, and that so Pills Plus is actually not going to be going anywhere. So as written today, as the placard is today, or I'm not even sure if there's actually a placard up, but as the paperwork itself for this site is today, that address is just not available. To be clear.
Well, that's up to Dr. Yaya. So I actually have when we started this process, what we were told by the landlord was that Pills Plus wanted to leave at their first chance. And so it was a location that we placed under letter of intent, and with the assumption that Pills Plus was trying to move. It's not until we recently found out that they are, I guess, received financing and are interested in staying. And I mean, we think that's wonderful. We are working on it. I think there are some options. I don't have all the answers for the community tonight. This process goes for another month. This is just the ANC portion. So like I said, we're hoping to be in the community, be on the block, preferably in this location, preferably. I just can't answer. I don't have anything definitive right now that I can tell you. So I'm hoping that the community will vote and will at least be able to know whether you're in support of this in principle. And if that's the case, I think we will be able to use that to proceed through the process and hopefully, to get a win. It is a competitive process. There's, my understanding, 6 other applications in Ward 3 and 1 outside of Ward 3, so Ward 5. And, we are trying our best to satisfy all of the requirements, but we have to deal with facts as we become aware of them. So I guess that answers the question best I can. I think the important thing to know is that we would rather work with them. No, we're not trying to push anyone out.
And I didn't even pay attention to what's going on in Ward 5 because I'm always just focused on what's happening in my community. There's only just one application for Ward 5 in this process.
That made finalists. There were only 7 finalists for dispensary applications. So
Okay.
5 of them, I understand, are in Ward 3 and 1. I'm sorry, 6 in Ward 3 and 1 in Ward 5.
Okay.
So presumably we're the only ones in Van Ness.
You are. I mean, that I know. Yeah. That much I know. But I think you're the 3rd one on Connecticut Avenue itself.
I think that's, I don't know, because they have not published the locations to us.
Yeah, I think there are 3 on Connecticut Avenue.
Well, one of the things we found in Ward 3 is there really is a limited number of commercial areas, right? I
Yeah.
mean, as you drive through, it's like one here, one here, one here, and one here, and then it's over. So everybody's vying for the same neighborhoods. So I think we got lucky, truthfully.
Okay, thank you.
There is definitely still time for additional questions or comments. Happy to, if folks want to come off of mute, if you can raise your hand so I can see who has questions or comments from the community.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll just say I really appreciate all of the time and consideration that you all have put into this. I mean, it's been very thorough and informative, and I'm glad that I'm having this opportunity, that we're having this opportunity to talk to all of you.
Definitely appreciate the presentation that you provided tonight. I think it was informative, probably a little different than I had imagined in terms of like, will be a high-end dispensary in our neighborhood and serving an older population. Those statistics were helpful. Other comments from the community? Any other comments from commissioners or Venice Main Street? Gloria? No?
I think maybe we should go towards a vote on this. So
I do want to say before we go to a vote, I want to just thank everybody who did fill out the survey. The feedback that we got from the survey, because I do want to make sure that we are being transparent about this. We had a small number of feedback from folks. There was only about less than 30 or so responses, and so overall, and from the 30 responses, in terms of the vote, it was 57% to 42% of the vote who 57% no, 42% yes. The N, like I said, is very small, so it was 19 to 14 folks. And so and the commentary as well, I think was informative for folks who were against it. The main concerns were around addressing crime, proximity to children, and being close to Burke and UDC, as well as Burke and UDC, which I believe were addressed on this call. In addition, were addressed on this call. In addition, some of the other comments from folks who were not in favor just had issues in terms of the buildings not properly enforcing their smoking policy, with the many complaints that folks have had about smoking marijuana in the building. I just want to scroll through some of the other comments here. The other comments for folks who were in favor, people had said, several people shared that there were older patients who were, had chronic illnesses, cancer patients who were, 75. For one of the comments was a person who was 75 years old and who had chronic illness and has to go all the way to Tacoma Park to be able to access the cannabis they need. So they welcome cannabis in the neighborhood. And I think those would those are the overarching, the main qualitative feedback that we receive from the community. And so, you know, people really like that it would be close by, and that it would be potentially a driver of business in our neighborhood. And like I said, just ensuring that the businesses that are, the existing businesses are not going to be pushed out, which I also believe was concerned on this, was addressed on this call as well. So that's the feedback that we received from the community. I want to know if there's any other questions based on what I just said, if there's any other points of clarification that the community wants in terms of the feedback that we received or from the commissioners.
I'm not hearing any additional feedback, so I think what we should do is let's discuss procedurally how we're going to go about this. We are going to take a vote on this and make a decision. Ultimately, that is the outcome of this meeting. We have to send either a resolution or a letter, I believe, a letter to ABRA outlining our decision, either in support or not in support, and detailing why or why not. We don't have such text written. Normally we have resolutions and letters written in advance, and we present that to the public, and we normally have that here at meetings, and then we can discuss specific text. But this process happened quickly, and we have a very tight turnaround, and we, as commissioners, came into this whole meeting tonight truly, I think, undecided. Like, we really wanted to, needed time, we need to do our fact gathering here tonight. So we're going to have to agree what is the form of our response to ABRA going to take, and then we're going to have to agree that whatever our decision we make, someone is going to have to draft it, and we're going to have to agree that in advance we approve. I mean, we will circulate it amongst ourselves, but for the specific language, but basically we will agree at tonight's vote that we are going to agree on that language, whatever is drafted in the next 4 days, because it's got to be there Monday.
Yeah, I think that the letter is going to be pretty simple in terms of the vote. So I'm happy to take the lead on that. This is in 3F02. So I'm happy to take the lead on drafting the letter and making sure that gets circulated and it gets posted to the website. And so
but remember, they want to hear our thoughts as well. So they don't just want to have the vote tally. They do want to actually have.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand that. And so I think that we can work, I can work with the commissioners in response and gathering the responses from the public, as well as what we heard tonight in our vote this evening.
Okay.
Okay. I guess motion.
So we agree that it's going to be a letter then, and not a resolution. Is that?
Yeah, it will be a letter, and not a
Okay.
resolution, and it will be at the bottom.
Okay.
It will also have the vote tally.
Perfect. Okay. Then
I think there's one question. There's one question from YP.
Since there's 5 other proposals, I put it in the chat. Will we be hearing all the proposals for Connecticut Avenue?
No, the other proposals are for the other boards. So tonight's vote is only for
No,
ANCs.
someone mentioned that there were 5 other proposals, and they mentioned there were others for Connecticut Avenue.
Correct. However, go ahead, Commissioner Castillo.
Yeah, I think, what we know of, there were two locations in ANC3C. One location was at Woodley Park and one location was at Cleveland Park, and ANC3C voted to support the Woodley Park location, and they voted not to support the Cleveland Park location. And I imagine that there's other ANCs I would imagine would weigh in on the other locations that were on Wisconsin Avenue.
Thank you, Commissioner Castillo. One other question from Terry. We definitely understand that this was a tight turnaround. We did the best we could to advertise this, not only this meeting, but also the survey. In addition, normally ABRA gives a 45-day turnaround time for liquor licenses, but for this one, it was only a 30-day period. So this is part of ABRA's process. And so we wanted to, part of the reason why this meeting is so late in terms of the 18th is because we wanted to give people enough time to be able to respond to community feedback. And we need to make sure that we are meeting the deadline on the 22nd. If the ANC3F does not vote, that is a neutral, or does not vote, that is a neutral, and therefore that just means the ANC has no position either way. That is also so that is also the reason why we designed this process in this way. So Terry, go ahead, Commissioner Nemeth.
We would love to have been able to do this in September. We would love to have been able to consider this at a later date. We found out about this at the end of July. We really had no choice. ABRA forced this schedule on us.
And it is ABRA's process, right? Every other ANC is, or all the other ANCs in the that are competing are also on this timeline. And as we mentioned, ANC3C has already voted probably a week and a half ago.
Understand. I mean, I completely understand that. However, not everybody sits there hanging their head on a listserv. There are other ways that this information could have gotten out. I wasn't aware of it. I do not live on listservs, and I try my very best to educate myself. It is a short turnaround. Things happen in our own work environment as well as here, a community environment, where it's a short turnaround. But this changes the dynamic of the street, and there should have been more conversation, whether good or negative. Maybe I would have learned something about it in the process, but I understand what you're saying, but it's still a disservice to the community.
And so, Terry, for the questions that you had, do you feel that the questions that you may have had were addressed this evening? Because again, that was the purpose of the meeting this evening.
I understand. I actually was so upset that I just needed to walk away from the meeting. I had a conversation with MPD yesterday, and officer who's there all the time. The new move is to just go in, get what you want, and bum rush the door and leave. And here's a guy who's armed with a gun and a taser. So it's great. It's wonderful that you might have a response to this. And it's great that you have a bonded police officer who will be there. There's nobody in this conversation who can guarantee that there will be prevention. If an MPD officer who was successful in preventing the crime and curtailing the efforts of the criminal, great. But there's no guarantee that this person who's not an MPD, who will be assigned 1 or 2 or however many people, there's no guarantee. We already have a crime has increased exponentially in our small area. And, you know, as wonderful as these two women, I'm a woman of color, I have a small business, I get it. I commend you, it's great. And my first thinking is that if you're going to have this, why not have it in your own community? One of you lives in Ward 1. Why is it so wonderful and so great and so fantastic? Why not there? We've got so many problems that we're having to deal with right now. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Terry. Terry, I just want to say there can only be one dispensary per ward. So there's a reason why it is in Ward
I
3.
get that, but see, I live in this, you live in this ward. One of these owners doesn't live in the ward. Okay, great. This is home. I already have a hard time walking to Giant now at night. I can't. It's just too dangerous. Their muggings are up. You've got loot, and you look at the police records. I mean, it's just off the chart, the crime that's going on right now. So thank you, and I'll stop. Thanks.
And I definitely appreciate your concern, Terry. You know, one of the things that as ANC, and I just want to address this to the wider community, one of the things that the ANC has been working on over the past year since we've been as a commission is the crime and safety issues. We have had our Commander Bedley on, as well as formerly Commander Amadeo, on our calls to provide updates on crime as well as statistics. I know Commissioner David has done her best to be able to provide safety trainings and advertise those for this particular meeting, as well as putting up flyers in this neighborhood as well. So we did the best to distribute this information as quickly as possible. And in addition, you know, we definitely hear the concerns about crime in this neighborhood. And as both Suli and Maya had stated, they are incredibly sensitive as, you know, longtime residents of this area. As Suli mentioned, her son has graduated from Wilson, so she's also familiar with this area as well. Suli or Maya, any other comments you want to make to in response to Terry's comments?
Yes.
Yeah, Maya, I don't know if you want to take it. I'm happy to. So I lived in Ward 3 for over 10 years. I now live in Columbia Heights. I'm very sensitive to violence and problems in a neighborhood. This is the District of Columbia. So you're right, there are no guarantees, but I assure you that it won't be much different than your other retail. We are a small business, and we will take the precautions. You know, armed security guard is at CVS. You know, we'll take the
Oh,
same.
I'm sorry. Actually, CVS doesn't pay for an armed security guard. MPD is the only security they have at CVS, just FYI.
And using, you know, using off-duty police officers is definitely a preference because they know the element in the community and they can head it off at the pass. So that's definitely our goal. But, you know, this is the reason the district's offering a dispensary license in Ward 3 is because to date, the dispensaries and other cannabis businesses have not been equitably distributed across the city. And frankly, your residents are not being served. I mean, they have to go to other neighborhoods to have relief from their pain. So I understand your concerns. I appreciate them. And I probably won't be able to prove it to you until we show you. But we are sensitive to your concerns.
I do appreciate it. As a mom whose son went to Wilson as well, I get it. I'm a long-term resident, a Washingtonian. I completely get all these things that you want to display to us. I get that. I also understand there are known knowns and there are known unknowns. There's no way to control either one until they actually are presented in front of you. But we've had such a change in our environment. And I also understand where you are. I understand where you're coming from. I respect that position, but you have to respect my position too, because I don't need your dispensary. Maybe other people do. And my doctor is way over on the other side of town. So if people can go over the other side of town for their doctor, they can also go other side of town to go to their dispensary. And to an earlier comment, we're not Colorado. We're not Canada. Been to both. You know, so I think we need to stick with apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And thank you.
We have one more question from YP, and then I think it will be time to vote.
Well, this is the first time we have heard a proposal. As you have well said, you may have had a quick turnaround, but I don't think it's quite fair to the people that put together this proposal, because most of your comments have been emotive in the sense that preconceived notions. I just sent out something from GW that will, for their integrative medicine, that will be explaining in more detail what cannabis is. And the way the science is going from Johns Hopkins will soon be met with shrooms. So yes, there is great apprehension as to whether, and there's a study done that says the crime is not increased. But when we look at crime and the ANC has not told us anything about the recommendations of what they're going to do about crime ever since the sniper that was on the television after in that news meeting. So I think as a ANC, we need to focus on what were those recommendations that came out after that. I too am concerned with you, Terry, about crime. And who's to say that when we, with any other business, that the Venice, whatever, your main street is supposed to be attracting. And I am shocked at the long-term businesses of the restaurant down the street that was very supportive of the community has gone out of business. And yet all over the city, I am shocked at how many businesses have gone out. With that being said, crime, and I think even this meeting, a 2 days advance notice to give comments, should have been a meeting, absorb what the business is saying and how they're constructing it, and then solicit comments. Because yes, this is a new idea, and I have my reservations about the explosion of it due to the need for tax dollars over what this type of product gives. Yes, the medical end is being stressed, and I myself, speaking with a doctor that has been very involved in other states and prescriptions and how this has evolved from several years ago, from when Colorado first came up with the notion. So, like I said, we have to deal with the crime. We'd like to hear what those recommendations that came out of those discussions. It was written that there were discussions before this with Van Ness, Main Street, and then the community finds out 2 days later. So I'm absorbing what the structure is. There are many storefronts now that are vacant. So I hear what you're saying about the proposal and the need for what Opera is asking for. So the bottom line is, you're going to be able to make a decision.
And is there, so I just want to be clear, is if there's a question there.
Yeah, the question is, I think there needs to be dissemination of information coming out of the meetings that you said you were having on crime and what the proposal of the ANC is to solve that. That is somewhat a separate issue, and yet it is part of this, because what you're saying is that cannabis will attract crime. But if it's a problem for CVS and a problem for Giant, then it is a problem that is for all businesses.
Understood.
See what I'm?
I definitely understand that there is.
So let us know those recommendations that those discussions that have been supposedly being had on how to solve that. And I don't think you're able to make it. And the other question is, you're able to make a decision based on emotive comments and factual comments. I just find that kind of odd.
I think the
information to us, I think the Sully needs to know, was only given to us 2 days ago. It was even this meeting. And it was posted on a listserv and not in other areas. So whatever. I'm just questioning the fairness of the process.
I honestly think we're all victims of the process right now.
No, the
You know, and for
fairness
this,
of the process.
and
Victims
for-
is something different.
and for this to
but
hit
you
in the
have
middle
the
of,
inside
you know, summer
information.
vacation is, you know, we're just trying to deal with it.
Well, if you do it in July, 2 days before Suli is able to give her proposal, I don't know. That just strikes me, but it is what it is.
I definitely understand there's concerns about the process. Again, I think I just want to be clear that this is ABRA's process. This is not the ANC's process. And so
That you knew about it in July. So if that would sensitize people to, well, I'm a kind of person who does research to find out what it would entail to have a dispensary in the ward. And that's my only thing. It's a fairness to the people that are to Suli and her business partners, or to the process in general, or to raise that to Abra that they did not give you adequate time to. I hate to say it, but it comes off like a check the box. So we have this meeting. You solicited comments for 2 days, and then all of a sudden you make them. So it sounds like everybody's made up their mind.
And I think, as I mentioned, I think all of the commissioners came here with a really open mind. I had not made up my mind at all about this particular decision, or about this particular vote until.
Oh, well, when you put out your email, I thought that I gleaned from it that you had already made up your mind that.
I had not made up my mind at all. I have not in one way or another. So I think that was the point of this conversation, was to ensure that we heard from the community. We said as much feedback as we could from the survey, and as well hearing from Suli and Maya today. So I appreciate those comments. We understand the process. We will give that feedback to ABRA in the future. As I mentioned, like it is August recess. We normally do not have a meeting, and we pulled this meeting together as quickly as possible and distributed the information as quickly as possible to be able to get community input. So appreciate that. I definitely appreciate your concern. And with that, I think it is time to vote, because if we do not vote tonight, then it will be neutral, and then none of the community's feedback will be taken into consideration. And so I want to make sure that we do vote tonight, because we are over time as well. So with that, I would like to make a motion to vote.
Well, we have to put a motion on the table, so I'll go ahead and.
Go ahead.
So. I move that ANC3F support this dispensary in principle in the Van Ness corridor, not at the current address with Pills Plus. We don't want to see a business being pushed out. And there was some sort of dispute with Douglas, or it's still not clear to me exactly what that was all about. Though it looks like Pills Plus is now securing their lease. So, in fact, so I will say, so I will support. I say we. So the motion is ANC3F supports having a dispensary in the Van Ness corridor, and yes, I do see the comment in the window, but not at the address that is currently placarded, because Pills Plus occupies that location.
So Commissioner Nemeth, a question on that motion. So let's put ourselves in ABRA's position. How do you think ABRA is going to look at this motion? That we support the idea in Van Ness, but not this location.
Well, I agree. I mean, they specifically put in a specific address. And they want, you know, they in their guidance, they're saying they want to understand. I think someone even posted in the chat window here about what the community thinks and what we think the impact to the community would be. And so I want to address that inner motion, that I think the overall impact would be positive for the community. I do like the idea of the dispensary, but that address is just simply not available, or there is how I see it. Something is just not, something about that specific site.
Could we vote on the location?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
you-
gonna make a suggestion. I'm a lawyer. I can't help it. I'm
I
sorry.
know, this is not for you anymore. Sorry,
Okay.
you just have to listen. Sorry.
Got it. It's no problem.
So I want to propose that we are voting on the actual location of the Pill Plus Pharmacy, because that is what the AVR license is states. So that is what the ANC is able to vote on, and not in principle on the, after listening to all the commentary, not on principle. It's really, can this be in this, or do we vote in favor at this Pill Plus location? And that is what the motion should be.
Okay. Then I will withdraw the original motion. And I propose a new motion. The ANC3F vote not in favor of the dispensary at the Pills Plus address, owing to the fact that that site is just not available, and we do not support pushing another business out for this.
I just want to be clear about the motion. The motion is, I want to be clear about the motion. The motion is ANC3F in favor of Ulexo, sorry, I pronounced this incorrectly, Ulexo being at the Pill Plus location. That is the motion. And the vote is yes or no. That's it. And
Correct. So
Stan,
ANC3F is not, so the motion is for ANC. I move that ANC3F is not in support of Ulexo being at the Pills Plus location, which is it 4125?
4115.
4115 Connecticut Avenue.
Can you put the motion in the chat? Do you mind writing that in the
I
chat?
will write it out. Give me.
And I also see Commissioner Wall with a comment.
I retract my comment. I think
Okay.
we got there. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I'll second the motion.
Wait,
Okay.
I need to see the question.
I know. Give me
Let's
a
not-
moment. Let me write it up and I'll paste it into the chat window. So please give me like 60 seconds to type this up. I want to make sure I get this right. How do you spell I mean, how do you spell the dispensary name?
UXOLO.
Okay. Okay, it's in the chat window.
I still second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Is that, just want to make sure for recording, that's 5 in favor? Do we have any opposed? Any abstentions?
And it's in favor of supporting the motion.
Correct, we're all in favor of supporting the motion.
Just know the address is wrong.
What is the address? Isn't it 4115?
No, it's 4215.
4215, sorry.
So you are closing the door on a dispensary at that location, even if Pill Plus agreed to house it. So I just want to make sure you guys understand.
Yes, because current, like,
We
yes,
don't know anything about that.
Okay.
because there isn't a current location available, and currently the leaseholder is Pill Plus. And so
Okay.
as it stands now, we have to vote on what the ABRA license said.
Okay.
And to be clear, we're not voting on pushing them out. We
We
You could-
definitely understand that. We know
we
that you're
have to
not,
make an arrangement with Pills Plus, so we would be asking you to vote on us, assuming we work it out with Pills Plus. Can we go there? If you vote against us, then we won't go there, even with Pills Plus working with us.
I think that the challenging spot, as you can imagine, is that is not secured today at tonight's meeting, and that we have to vote on the information that we have.
I agree, but you don't have specific, Dr. Yaya is not on this call, so we don't have any information about what I've been able to work out with him or not. So I understand that your letter can expound on the whys and the thought process, and so, you know, we're not asking to replace Pills Plus, we're asking to be given an opportunity to work with Pills Plus because of this unique situation that we're in. But we need you guys to say, okay, otherwise, you know, I can save myself that effort.
Understood. Okay, with that, the meeting has concluded. I would like to promote a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you everybody, and have a great evening.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.